The National Taxi Alliance strike that was supposed to start today has been temporarily called off. The Taxi Alliance planned to deliver a Memorandum of Grievances to the Minister of Transport as well as the Presidency. This all comes after the National Taxi Alliance sent Joe Maswanganyi, the Minister of Transport, 2 letters and he failed to respond. Joining us this morning is Theo Malele. He is from the National Taxi Alliance. Good to have you. Thanks so much for coming in, Theo.
Well, good morning, Leon, and good morning to your viewers as well.
All right, so let's start off with what the problem and the issue actually is. What is the contents of the letters that you've been giving to the Transport Minister?
Well, first and foremost, the first letter was a complimentary one. That's when Joe Maswanganyi, or the Minister Joe Maswanganyi, was first appointed to being the Minister of Transport. He then lacked the courtesy of acknowledging receipt of that letter. And the second letter was that of us asking him to meet with us in order that we put our grievances on the table for him to action, given the fact that even his predecessors have actually dismally failed the taxi industry in addressing, the challenges that are facing the taxi industry. But then he somersaulted and said to us that he acknowledged that, yes, indeed, we have problems, and also that he was very much willing to listen and help us find, solutions. As a collective, we would find solutions to these problems. And the only challenge that he was facing was that the current month, being the transport month, with so many activities happening throughout the country, he had so many commitments. The one such was that of the opening of the 3 bridges in Limpopo, and even today's OR Tambo event.
All right, so you're satisfied with this response now, and you're happy to wait until a convenient time. Have you set up a meeting? Are you going to sit with him and talk about your grievances?
Look, there was no need for us to kick a door when the door is already open for us to begin, engagements. He acknowledges that NTA is in existence. He's also committed that he would have a meeting with us within a week's time. Hence, as a result, we gave him an ultimatum of 14 days that, failing which, by the 8th of November, we will definitely go to the streets if there is nothing tangible coming from his office.
All right, and this will be a national shutdown for the taxi organizations.
It will be.
Let's start off now with talking about your grievances. What do you want? What is the problem?
Leanne, to be fair and frank, there is a plethora of problems that are facing the taxi industry. The one such that is commonly known is that of operating licenses. You have newcomers in the game. They already are getting government's attention, but the minibus taxi industry isn't getting any attention to address, the gridlocks in issuing of these licenses. You also have your taxi recapitalization program, which the NTA has cried foul over. And there is also a lack of, accountability on issues of, the scrapping allowances, that are there. You also have the question of, public transport subsidies. You have a problem of, our operating licenses now being infinite, and yet previously they were indefinite. And you now also have a problem of, our operating licenses not having any monetary value. So there is quite a number of problems, and there is also legislation that is not enabling for us to be able to engage government meaningfully. The recent withdrawal of PATCO from some of the routes it operated gave us an opportunity, as per Section 41 of the National Land Transport Act, to have a negotiated settlement or contract with the municipalities. But even the very provincial MECs, which is their competency, are reneging. We really are perturbed as to whether there is political will to begin to address these problems that are facing the taxi industry. And mark you, we ferry, the majority of passengers, but still we are treated as a stepchild of the public transport sector.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, these are your grievances, and hopefully you will be able to have a conversation with the minister all about this. But, in reality, it's also, as much as you have grievances, I think the public also have grievances towards you, and you know that. And I think it's the behavior on the roads. I think it's the arrogance of taxi drivers. It's the issues that people put their lives into a taxi driver's hands that drives on the wrong side of the road to try and alleviate traffic. So there's also behavioural issues that, people depend on you for transport, and it's a big problem. Are you addressing this? I mean, I know you want your grievances addressed, but I got a feeling that passengers would love to send you memorandums and say, look, let's sit down and sort you guys out.
Very well, very well. Passengers are a lifeblood of our business.
Indeed they are.
And with the visionary leadership that we have within the National Taxi Alliance, we are addressing that. And safe to say, probably within the next 6 months, I probably would come back to you and say to you, Leanne, we have now established a training academy of the National Taxi Alliance, in which we will try and capacitate our drivers so that they change their behavior. But we would like to also make a plea to the committee masters that they should also help us to help them. They shouldn't allow drivers, for an example, to speak on their cell phones whilst driving. They shouldn't also begin to pay their fares whilst, the taxis are in motion. And they should also try and wake up a little earlier, because they also exert pressure on the drivers to say to these drivers, driver X, we laid this money, and the driver will then have to try and, please, these customers whilst they're breaking the laws. Look, we do not condone the, bad behavior of the drivers, but we do acknowledge that, yes, there is indeed a serious problem in that regard.
What do you do about it? I mean, when you've got taxi drivers that go on strike because they don't want to pay traffic fines, that they don't want to be held accountable for going through red robots, the reality is that sometimes you almost feel that the taxi industry is above the law, and it's not.
No, we certainly are not. Look, that is disingenuous, for our drivers to do that. If they behave accordingly on the roads, then we do not think that they will actually attract so much, traffic fines. So it's just a question of them, having a paradigm shift, and we really feel that the main cause of this, it's the fare collection. Once you can actually have a system of nullifying cash on a daily basis, then you would have attitudes changing, because drivers do that trying to make a quick buck, of which we do not actually put pressure on them, as it is publicly speculated that the taxi operators also, put pressure on the drivers to put an X amount of money on the table. Yeah. Yes, indeed, there has to be parameters in which we put as business to say, these are your performance, areas, and you need to focus on that. It is just a pity that this has been precipitated by greed, sloth, that actually makes people to try and make an extra buck. And we also now have, your traffic, law enforcement authorities that target these minibus taxis during peak hours, because we believe that this is a quick cash, way of making, a quick buck for your breakfast or your quick buck for your evening drink.
Yeah. When you talk about the fact that passengers should put their foot down, they're your livelihood, they're your lifeblood, but how do they put their foot down? Because the intimidation that is caused by the taxi drivers, I mean, they'll just kick somebody out onto the road. They will refuse to pick them up. You're then late for work. It's a vicious cycle. So you've got absolutely no option sometimes but to get into that taxi. What does a passenger have? What are their rights?
Okay. Obviously, if passengers are being mistreated or ill-treated by any driver, they have a right to report this matter. One, we have a toll-free number, which is 0800 113322.
Okay.
All right. And they should also look at the windshields, either the front windshields of that particular vehicle or the rear windshields. There should be a sticker, and that sticker depicts the name of the particular association where this vehicle is from. And they should also take the registration number of that vehicle, and if possible, the route and maybe the date.
Yeah.
And that should then be reported to us. Then we should be able to can take that to the Taxi Association. Believe you me, there are consequences. We do have a code of conduct within taxi associations, and these drivers on a weekly basis, if they have any misdemeanors, they face a disciplinary action. So there is, I mean, you can actually find out from the public out there at large. There are people that call us, and we do respond.
You do take action.
Yeah, and even through our email address, at info@nta.online.co.za. We actually make sure that we address these issues, and the maximum time that we would take to address these issues is 72 hours. But in most cases, we just do it quickly.
I have to unfortunately leave it there. I wish I could look at tweets and comments from viewers, but I certainly will during the program. But so as we know, strike is called off for now. The meeting should be happening before the 8th of November. Otherwise, you are threatening.
Temporarily suspended, not called off, suspended. But if not, nothing goes. 8th of November, we're on the streets.
Thanks for talking to us. Theo Malele, he is from
Only
the
a pleasure.
NTA, the National Taxi Alliance.
Thank you.
Let's take a break. We've got more for you after this.